We're going to start, Alan, with the breaking news that happened yesterday morning while we were on air, just as we sat down to talk to Sonia and Nick, which is the horrific attack in Hainault. More is coming out. We're seeing more pictures of exactly what went on, but it is no less terrifying. No.
Absolutely terrifying, and we're learning about the injuries to those two police officers and, of course, the death of that poor 14-year-old child. Once again, the issue comes up about whether the police should be either armed or not, or whether they should carry tasers, which eventually helped to catch this guy, whether they should be routinely carried by police officers. If you talk to the police, the vast number of police officers do not want to be armed. We are almost unique in the world, not having an armed police force, and I think police officers realise that that's a good thing about our policing system. But the majority of police officers do want to carry tasers as a routine. At the moment, any police officer who's done 18 months service can apply to be trained to use a taser. You do need training. I mean, it's a very painful.
Yes. Yeah.
It debilitates, but it's also painful.
Yeah.
If you've done 18 months, you can apply. Should they be the modern technological version of the truncheon?
Yes.
I mean, to me, this is a kind of natural progression. All officers carried a truncheon, now called a baton.
Yeah. And
eventually, I think, inevitably, all officers are going to carry it.
Well, I mean, looking at that picture there, which is absolutely terrifying, of this person with a sword, Camilla, you can see why more and more police officers would think actually having a taser would help them in that scenario. That's how they were able to bring him under control. But it's only, at the moment, sorry, it's 7,500 of the Met's
not that many,
34,000 police officers
I mean, to be
have
fair,
been trained to carry it.
Sir Matt Rowley was on with Nick Ferrari on LBC this morning, and he was making the point that this idea of arm all police officers with tasers, well, not those covering fraud and financial crime or cybercrime. So that's a bit of a distortion of the picture. But I was just thinking with regard to what Alan was saying there, you know, truncheons, they may have been appropriate in the 70s and 80s, but, you know, we didn't witness people brandishing knives like that. I mean, it's not even a knife.
Sword.
It's a sword.
Yeah.
To be fair, let's pay tribute to the police. The police were on the spot in 12 minutes. We had police officers, imagine running towards this bloke and
so
trying
brave
to stop.
in this video as they walk towards danger like that. I think, you know, hats off to them. They're incredible.
But we've spoken to people in that area, you know, yesterday. Some of the witness testimony from mums. I mean, I looked at it as a journalist yesterday. Obviously, it's a breaking news story for us on the Telegraph. You look at it from a mum's point of view. I've got a 13-year-old boy. You know, the idea of that boy not coming home is just absolutely just beyond. It's beyond comprehension. And so you've got mums there now worried about their kids on school runs, worried about kids, teenagers taking buses because of this. So I agree with you, Alan, that I think arming the police, particularly we've had recent court cases where the police have been challenged about using their firearms, and then that's put them off the idea of having firearms. But a truncheon isn't going to cut it against this kind of violence. It just simply isn't.
Do you think more police on the street would help too?
I mean, in this case, obviously, this was an early morning incident. I think this bloke was out and about between the hours of 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. It's good that the police were there in just over 10 minutes. We talk about community and visible policing, don't we? But then the police will argue that although we've witnessed these sorts of violent crimes and, you know, machete wielding and things in recent times, particularly in London, you know, a lot of crime has gone online, and therefore this idea that we need bobbies on the beat like we used to, I think it has a reassurance effect. Would visible bobbies have stopped this? I mean, it's hard to speculate. This man's in police custody and further investigations will follow. The Met will say, you know, the numbers need to be sustained.
Yeah.
And knife crime, we had this argument about Sadiq Khan talking about knife crime having gone up. It has gone down. It has gone up in London. And something needs to be done about it.
Yeah.
But I think the answer to your question is undoubtedly yes. Neighbourhood policing is popular with the public. The public know they've got a team of police officers who they can contact. And you know, the numbers came right down. Theresa May cut a fifth of the force. Boris Johnson tried to build them up again, commendably.
Yeah.
The trouble is they've lost veterans and they're bringing in novices, if you like.
Yes.
You know, it takes a while
to train them
They
up.
lost all of that collective knowledge.
Yeah.
At one point, should samurai swords like this and machetes, it's difficult to legislate for the ban of sales of kitchen knives for obvious reasons. You look at a samurai sword like that, or indeed a machete, and think to yourself, shouldn't there be some sort of licensing arrangements around them as there are around firearms?
100%. On to a little bit of good news now, Camilla. King Charles has returned to public duties.
Yes. I wasn't there yesterday, but I had a leaving do of a royal correspondent, and so lots of royal correspondents were there who had been covering the event, saying they actually looked really chipper and that he was so happy to be back at work. We know because Peter Phillips had given an interview a few months ago saying that his uncle was agitating to get back to work and saying, when can I... and was feeling frustrated because the cancer treatment obviously was kind of laying him low and he was extremely tired after having the treatment. So this can only be a positive thing. You know, a 75-year-old man in his position now, having gone through cancer, being treated for cancer, but also reassuring others he met there. I mean, he did confess to one of the ladies he shook hands with there that, you know, of course it was a shock to be diagnosed. I mean, we were all shocked as a general public. Goodness know how he felt. And, of course, we keep the Princess of Wales on our minds, don't we, as she's going through her course of chemotherapy as well. But a good news story at last, Alan, I think. I think
what struck me about this, actually, was that when I was Health Secretary, I went to see a similar place. This was the Macmillan Centre at UCL. I went to a place at Charing Cross Hospital where they had cancer sufferers talking to each other, sharing their experiences. And they all said how important that was as part of their recovery. Now, what struck me about this is if you're King Charles III, you can't just rock up at some...
No.
He seemed to get a lot of benefit from talking to that woman yesterday, from sharing his shock at the diagnosis. I think it's good for him.
Yeah.
And it's probably something he hasn't had access to before.
And also, he was able to turn around, Camilla, and explain to the woman that he needs to have his treatment this afternoon as well. So he was doing this, and then he, much like they're having their chemo and they're having their treatment, he's got to go and do it. So it suddenly makes him feel very normal.
Human.
Yes.
Very human, yeah.
All credit to him, though. I mean, talk about the epitome of keep calm and carry on, eh?
Yeah.
But you can imagine the family thinking, can we please get him back to work? Because he's really...
He's driving us all mad.
Now, I'm